Recording. Let's get started. Okay, so today is the 21st. I will post something for the lab tomorrow. And I will be here, but if you're not here, I get it. I will be in town and in contact. We have a test 3 on Tuesday when we get back, the 29th. So if you are catching up, you have some catching up to do. If you are catching up and you're not finding your mistake, then you can Zoom with me. You can sort of send me your code and say, can you find I'll find a mistake or two and send it back to you. Something like that. All right, so the test. So all the labs and homework sent are under the section of test 3, which is the arrays, radio buttons, groups of chat boxes. That's the material. All that stuff is still eligible for 100. All the older stuff is still worth up to 90. And some of you are behind and need to do some catching up. You don't need anything very special. You don't need necessarily Visual Studio Code, although it's free and you can download it for free, install it. But if your computer's balking on it, all you really need is a notepad or anything like that to write HTML. All right. So any questions? We've moved on a little bit from the material that's on the test, and then we started to talk about objects, which I will continue today, and reading files. So reading files and objects are not on the test. If I give you a set of parallel arrays and you decide I'm going to do it by objects, that will be acceptable. If I give you a big long string of text and you decide I'm going to read it from the file rather than paste it into my HTML, that will be acceptable. But that's not required. There'll be no bonus points for doing that. If you want to do the newer stuff on the test that we give next week, that would be fine, but not necessary and no points for it. So we've talked about objects and we've talked about files, and today I'm going to sort of marry those two topics and read a file that has an object structure in it. But first I'll pause and ask if there are any questions, things that you want me to go over. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to take this dog images. So there's images in JSON about dogs in here. So I'm going to download that, extract that. And here is some images of dogs and 2 variations on what's called a JSON file. So I'm going to get that folder, and I'll put it in my 230 folder. And that is usually where my Visual Studio Code is directed. And dogs. Wasn't it dogs? Then I put it here, dog images. Okay. So we're going to read a file and then get the information from it. So let's have a peek at these files. I have 2 versions. They both have the same data in it, just arranged slightly differently. And let me format it. Okay, so we've been talking about objects and arrays of objects and properties of objects. And so this is a special notation that was developed in JavaScript. The JS in JSON is JavaScript, but it's become the standard way to pass around sort of an object amount of data. So we've seen files which have delimiters and need to be split. And then you need to, the last thing we did was we defined a class, and then we read a file and we parsed that file on 2 delimiters and made an array of objects. This file has the array of objects built into it. Okay. So in this notation, when you see a curly bracket, that indicates that we have an object. And then these things then are in quote, and then a colon, and then something else. That is a property. So dogName colon bulldog. That means that I'm going to have a property. The name of the property is going to be, the name of the property is dogName, but the value it's taking on in this particular instance is bulldog. Okay. So a lot of you have database and you're used to this idea of like the data and the metadata. So this is like metadata colon data. Okay, so this is property and then value. Property value pair. And I have a bunch of property value pairs: dogName, bulldog, dogHeight 15 in inches, I guess, dog colors, a list of colors, a description, a group, and image. So that is all the properties that we have defining a dog. And they are separated by these curly brackets. So that is a dog object. If I have a comma, that's just my indication that more is coming. So I have here dogName bulldog, comma, so that means I have more properties coming. Dog height, dog colors, dog description, dog group, dog image. No comma there, because I'm done. That was my last property. And then here is my closing curly bracket. That object is done. That's all I know about that object. Then I have a comma, and that in this case means I have more coming. And in this case, what I have more coming is another object. So now I'm into the Lhasa Apso. Okay, so I have this. So this is an object. This is a property and a value. And I have a bunch of property values in a curly bracket. That's an object. I have a square bracket. We're used to the square bracket notation. That's an array. So I have an array. So with this square bracket, I have an array. What do I have an array of? I have an array of objects. What are the properties of the object? dogName. What's the value of dogName? Bulldog. So I've explained this much of it. Then overall, I have an overall object. And that overall object has a property called dogs. And the value of dogs is the array. And I'm going to show you the other JSON file. The other JSON file, let me format that one. The other JSON file starts with the square bracket, starts right off of the array. So one time what I get out of the file is an array. And then the other time what I get out of the file is an object that has a property that is an array. So they have the same data in them. They both talk about bulldogs and Lhasa Apsos and beagles and what have you. They both have the same amount of information. They just start a little differently. One of them starts everything is an array. The other one starts everything's an object with a property, and that property is an array. So you've got to look at the file and see what you're getting. Are you getting overall an object, or are you getting overall an array? The format, the JSON format supports both. But if you code it, assuming that you're starting with an array and really the file starts with an object or vice versa, then it's not going to work. So you've got to, like, we will have examples. This will be the last exam. And when you are reading this file, you will have examples where it starts as an object. You may have examples where it starts as an array. And if you follow the wrong example, you will be screwed. You're allowed to use examples, but your job is to pick the right example. If you mess up these two kinds of files, they're very similar looking, but if you mess up how it starts, then you'll be problem after problem after problem. Okay. So my first question to you is, like, which one do we want to work with? Do you want the one that's object with a property that's the array? Or do you want the one that's straight out array? Object property array, this one? Yeah. Okay. All right, so now we need to make an HTML. We're going to fetch that file. We're going to get the information out of that file, our dog information out of that file. My usual question, HTML in the folder or outside of the folder? In the folder, you agreed. As I was seeing if you agreed, you do agree. So I'm in the folder. I'm going to hit the plus and I'll say, I don't know, dog show. Okay, make up some name, HTML, exclamation without a squiggle. Where am I at? There we go. M an abbreviation. Dog show H1 dog show. Okay. So far, so good. Save all. Okay. So we have this file. It's going to be my usual. We're going to we have pictures of the dog. I'm going to have a drop-down list where you get to choose the dog, and then I'm going to display the information about the dog, its colors, its height, so on. Okay, so let's just start with a drop-down on the page. If I have time, we'll make it look nice and throw it in a grid, but we'll see. I don't know if I'll have time. An ID. And we'll call it cell dog. I'm going to select a dog. And you guys always seem to like on load. So we're going to have an on load. And I usually just call it populate. And we're going to read the file, get the object information out of the file, and then use the dogs to populate the dropdown. So I need a script, and I'm going to have a function, and the function is populate. Okay, so we're writing our populate function here. All right, let me save. Okay. And what are we going to do? We are going to fetch. I'm going to have a global object. So why am I putting it inside of populate if it's global? I'm going to have a global thing that's going to hold all the information that's going to come from my file. And that's going to be an object that has a property that is an array. So I'm going to call it dogs. I'll call it dog object, dog all, I don't know. Okay, or big, how about big dog object or something? Big, I'll call it big dog. There we go. All right, so that's not a dog, that's a big thing about all the dogs. Okay. And it is global because after I use populate function, I'm going to need all the information contained in the big dog. Okay. So what am I going to do? I'm going to fetch the file. The file is a sibling of the HTML. So all I need is the name of the file. Okay. So it was, which one did we say we wanted? We wanted the first one. Yeah. Okay, so that was dog, yeah, dog data JSON. Okay. I have too many files open, but okay. We had to remember what our fetch looks like. This was not a fetch. Where was a fetch? Well, let's quiz. Reload it or something, right? You're the ones that say fetch or fetch, right? Okay. Away, get away, get away. Okay. I'm always yelling at you to work from examples and have your examples ready. I don't have my examples ready. Okay, but remember what a fetch looks like. Fetch, then, but this part's going to change. All right, let's copy the basic structure. We have matrix, we have a then, we have another then. We're going to gut it, and the catch. The fetch, then catch is the main structure. And we're here in dog show. And then I'm going to gut it. I'm going to gut the second then at least, because we're not doing this stuff. We're not parsing. So here's our basic structure for fetching. Fetch, the name of the file, then catch. Catch is just for if something goes wrong. But we're going to change the response here. To a JSON. All right, matrix quiz. It was text open close. So let me model on that. Hopefully that works. When we read a JSON file, JSON is something that JavaScript understands. Hence the name JSON, JSON object notation. So JSON was designed to be something that JavaScript understood. And we are announcing here that it's not the text, but the JSON. And the JSON is understood to be the object with the array inside and the properties and all that. And we're passing that on to data. And data is big dog. So all I'm doing here is making data, what came in, global. And then there's the console log. We will come back and do more, but let's, after we've read it, let's do our console log of big dog. So we're reading the JSON file. We have then catch. The first then has the big response from, you have to imagine we might be getting something off the web. So there are things like the status report and all that. And we're saying, I don't want the status report, just pass on the JSON. But I'm also announcing that it's JSON and it has this structure that JavaScript is supposed to understand. And then in my second then, when all I have is the data, I'm saying that data is exactly my global variable big dog. And then if a mistake occurs, we'll log it. And if that all succeeds, we'll console log out big dog and see what it looks like. Let's see what happens. And failed to load the resource. That's just the fave icon thing. But I'm not seeing my JSON either. Let me try it without that. This thing out of the way. Why won't it go away? Stop it. Just get to the side and leave me alone. I can usually get rid of that thing, or at least push it off far enough, and now it won't seem to go away. That's a little better. All right. And I'm still undefined. All right. What am I doing wrong? This is supposed to be the easy part. Oh, I didn't save. Did I save before? Oh, big dog. Okay, big dog is data. Bringing out big dog, and it's not working. And I have dog data JSON. That's what I'm reading. This should be. Now I need to work from in my example. Dog fetch. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. JSON, then respond to the JSON with the parentheses like I had it the first time. My JSON is the data. Let's try this. Big dog is data. Let's try to alert big dog dot. What was the property of big dog was little dogs. And that's an array. Let's try to see its length. Let's see if we can see how many dogs there are. There are 10 dogs. That is correct. There are 10 dogs. Okay, so it's working better than I thought, but my big console log here is not so hot. All right, so now we know that there are 10 dogs. Let's try the console log down here. Oh, I know what's happening. My fault. I'm being stupid. Why does this not work? It should be inside. You're right. You had it, and the stuff that comes from reading the file has to be inside the fetch then, or it has to be respond to a very slow kind of a user thing. So can't put this here. Remind me that I'm stupid. And let's put it here. When we're fetching and getting data, the stuff that's outside of fetch tries to rush ahead. But we need to have read the data. So we can't rush ahead. So there's my 10. There is, let's look at my console. Does my console work this time? Here's my console. It has an object. It has dogs, which are 10 things. Here's an individual dog, bulldog. Okay. So we can see that we have read the file if I put it in the right place. We had always read the file, but I sort of rushed ahead and tried to get the information out of the file in the wrong spot. Okay. So we didn't have to say, what's the delimiter? We didn't have to loop. We just said, give me the JSON. In line 20, we just said, give me the JSON. Then we said, I'm going to remember that data globally, and everything else was just us seeing that it was working or not working if I put it in the wrong place. All right. Now I want to do what? Now I want to populate that dropdown. I want to populate the dropdown. Tell me what to do. Get the select. That's something I had to do once. And that was cell dog. So I always call it my select is equal to document get element by ID. Cell dog. And I'm getting the whole thing. And then before you start to talk about it. So let so I want to get how many dogs there were. I knew there were 10 because we alerted it, but how did we get that 10? No, there it is above. Big dogs dot length. That's what's 10, right? Somebody's eyes who didn't seem to know what I was saying, but big dogs is an object. You wanted me to do the overall object. Then dogs is a property of big dogs, which is an array, and arrays have a length. So big dogs dot length. What do I want to do? I want to make options for my drop down, and the options are going to show dog names. I'm going to make an option which doesn't exist. So I always call it my option because I and boring and always use the same things. My option is document, create. I'm not getting something that exists, but I'm making something new. Create element. I'm creating an option element. Save, let me close this, make a little bit more room. I'm making an option, and then I'm going to set the text of my option. And what's the text of my option? Big dog is an object. Big dogs dot dogs is an array. Big dogs dot dogs square bracket I is an element of that array. And big dogs dot dogs square bracket I dot, I don't remember, I have to look at the file. dogName, thank you. So again, big dogs is the overall object. Dot dogs is the array that's within that. Square bracket I is an element of that array. Dot dogName is the property of the dog object that I want to put in the option. So big dog dot dogs square bracket I dot dog names, not dig name, dog name. And this is all for not, I want the value, my option. I'm dealing with an array. The useful thing when we have an array to work with behind the scenes is the index. And then I need to add the option to the select. You should know this code, maybe not the object version, but you should know this code because this is something I like to do. And so hence I might like to do it with arrays next week on the test. So my select dot, and I'm adding, appending a child, and I'm adding my option. Okay, so I'm adding the option here. And there we are. Bulldog, Lhasa Apso, Bloodhound, Boxer, Alaskan Malamute, etc. We read the JSON file. We fetched the JSON file. We responded in our first then with just the JSON. This used to be text before it was text. But if you're giving something as structured as JSON, you announce that it's JSON. Then when I get that data, I just make it my global variable big dog. And now I am making my options in my select. Now I want to do, when they choose a dog, I want to do something. So I need to make a function that is the on change of the select. So here's my select. I'm going to give it an on change. And what am I going to call it? Instead of calling it dog show, I'll call it show dog. Okay. And so then I need that function. I can put this function. I'm going to show data from the file. I want to show data from the file. But I'm only going to show data from the file when the user changes the option. The user can't change the option until there are options to change. So I can put code, I can put the show dog function outside of the fetch because the user can't do anything before the file is read. So I don't have to worry about my code rushing ahead. My code's only going to be called by a user's action, and the user can only make that action after the data has been read. So I don't have a problem here with the code racing ahead. It can't. It answers to the user. So I don't have to worry here about this fetching problem. And what am I going to do? I'm going to get the dog that they chose, or the index of the dog that they chose. So I'm going to say, I'll say my index because I'm selfish, but it could also be user index or dog index. They all make sense. Document, get element by ID. Some people are trying to pay attention. And let's alert my index. I don't have anything to do on the page yet. But let's just see if I have the index, then I need to do something to show dog information. So boxer was 3 because it was the 4th dog. Index started at 0. Do you want to display information? Do you want to change the picture? What do you want to do? Thanks for your input. All right, well, let's get an image. So under the select, I'll have an image. Image dog. So there we have an image. I don't have a source yet. Let's give it a style and control its size. Let's control its width to be 100 pixels. That's probably too big. All right, so I have image dog. So down here, I'm going to do document, get element by a name, get element by ID. Image dog, I'm going to change its SRC. And I'm going to change it to what? I have big dog, that's my object. I have big dogs, dot dogs, that's my array.
Dots. Big dog dot dogs dot dog image and then brackets.
Got a little out of order.
The brackets and then
The brackets and then the dot dog image.
yeah, well, yeah.
So big dog. That's the object. Dot dogs. That's the array within. The square bracket. Not I'm not looping over all of them. I'm picking out a specific dog, so my index. And now then I can't spell, index. And now then I have a specific dog, a specific element of my dog array, my array of dogs within my overall object. Then I want the specific property, which is the file names, which was what dog image, did you tell me?
Dog and image.
Yeah, image. Okay. Is it always dog image? No. Well, first of all, if it were a cat file, it might be cat image, but it also might be cat tick. You know, that's not always the same, just the same with me and delimiters. My delimiters aren't always the same, and my property names aren't always the same. You have to know a little bit about the file you're reading to code it, or you have to code, or the code's a lot harder if you don't know what the file looks like. So we're always going to just assume that you have to look at the file and not write the extremely hard code of reading a file that you don't know anything about. So here is the bloodhound, and there's the bloodhound. Okay, I probably want him underneath. So let me get a break in here. I want the first dog to show. When the user starts the page. If you refresh the page, I want to dispatch an event.
Yeah.
Where can I dispatch an event?
In the second then.
In the second then, after we have the options, because we need the options to exist to be able to choose. So here, after in the second then, after we've made options, after we put options into the select, then it's reasonable for us to imagine that we have changed the option. The option, the event belongs to the select. We are dispatching an event of the select. We usually just say it's a new event. And it is a change event. So that is choosing, making it seem as if the user has chosen the dog. So there is, when I start the page, refresh the page, there's the bulldog. I want to choose a dog at random. I want to choose a dog at random to be displayed when the page starts up or is refreshed. How do I pick a random dog? What's controlling? It's a bulldog. Keeps coming up bulldog. Why does it keep coming up bulldog? Because it's the first one. Because it's the 0. So let me change that value from 0 to a random number and then dispatch the event. So after I make the options, but before I dispatch the event, my select is the select. It has a value, which is a number, and I want to choose it randomly. I want to pick a random number between 0 and the length of the dog array, not including it. Math.floor. Hold on, you're getting ahead of me here. Math.random times big dog dot dogs dot length. And yes, okay. So math random was a number between 0 and 1. Big dog dot dogs dot length. We know that that was 10. So then we take a number between 0 and 1 and multiply it by 10. That gives us a number between 0 and 10. we never get to 10. We take the floor of it, so that is an integer between 0 up to including 9, and we make that the value of the select, and then we dispatch an event, and so we should be picking a random dog. There is a cattle dog. Refresh the page, a beagle. You're getting different answers because we have different random number generators. Our random number generator is seeded differently because it's seeded off the clock and you're not doing it at the same time I am, or at the same computer I am. All right, let's display at least one piece of information and then we can call it a day. What do you want? Do you want a div? Do you want a span? Do you want a span? He wants a span. Okay. But I want to break. He wants a span. Give the span an ID. What property of the dog what text property of the dog? Description. Okay. So I'll call this SP for span description. And so then down here in show dog, we're going to say what? A document get element by ID, SP description, control the SP description. What property of the span? Inner HTML. And then we want that to equal what? We can copy some of it from above. Big dog dot dogs my index dot, and then just change
Dog description.
Okay. Dot dog description. And how does he know that? Because he looked at the JSON file. And so the bulldog is loving and courageous. The Lhasa Apso is gay and assertive. Okay. Affectionate but shy. Okay, there we go. And then we can pick them for ourselves. Border collie. There we go. Intelligent. All right. And the rest is more of the same. Display the other pieces of information. So we've read a JSON file. I mispronounced JSON. The whole rest of the world says like JSON, something like that. All right. That gave us all the structure immediately. We did not have to split. We didn't have to worry about delimiters and splitting. It gave us the stuff. There are two types of files. We chose one of them. Someday we should try to see what the other one, what changes would have to be made for the other one. I think we're done. Any questions? No, I will.
Homework for this week.
No homework.
Just lab.
Just a lab tomorrow. I'll try to keep it